Vitalik coming at you with another topic. And today we will be talking about calorie myths. All right. But before we dive in, I want to let you know you are welcome to join the Meathead Monsters Club. It's a free Facebook community where you get to become a part of the Meathead community and meet other Meatheads like yourself. All right. Also, if you have any questions you'd like to ask me or tune into the live recording, you can search for Matt Butale on Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, shameless plug to my YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see some Meathead content live and direct. You know what I'm saying? All right, today we're joined with a special guest, a really special guest. She specializes in helping women with PCOS, hormone and metabolic struggles, and also beat body fat without giving up the freedom of food. Okay, please welcome the head coach of the Badass Black Sheep Academy and successful entrepreneur, the one and only Shal Friesen. Coach Shal, what the fuck is up? What's happening?
Thank you, Matt, for that amazing intro. That's probably the best intro I think I've ever had. I really appreciate that. My day is going really good. I'm really excited to be here. As you know, I've been a fan of you for a long time. I've been watching your story for a very long time. We've been members of PT Dom for, wow, you've been in it you're one of the OGs with me. You've been in it for a long time now. So I've been following you for a really long time, and I just really respect everything that you do. I love the Meathead on the Mic podcast, and it's honestly such an honor to get to be here and to be here for your audience too. I'm really hoping to bring you guys a treat and to give you guys some value, because I really appreciate all of your time being here, and I appreciate having you listen. So this is great. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, you're most welcome, Shal. Again, we got each other's back. We're OGs in the PT Dom community. And just as you're excited, I'm ecstatic to have you here as well, because the wealth of knowledge that will be provided to the viewers and the listeners of the podcast is just going to be beyond their wildest dreams, right? Like, this is going to be those podcasts where you're definitely going to have to replay and pull a pad and a pen out. Just want to let you know that. All right.
You can get your paper out right now.
You can do that too. If you're here watching live, you could definitely, you know what I'm saying? Awesome. All right.
Get ready.
All right. Yeah. Get ready, guys and girls, because we're going to be breaking a lot of misconceptions here today. Okay. So Shal, quick question I want to bring up to you, because I know there are literally a plethora of like myths that we have going on in the space, fitness space, and just in life regarding, you know, the importance of calories, the importance of certain macronutrients being protein, carbs, and fats, and their effect on our bodies, you know, our hormones and our weight loss journey, you know, mine, yours, and the client's. So the first thing I wanted to do here is to bring out the most, at least prevalent in your perspective, calorie myth that you always hear, that you just, it twists your brain every time you hear it. It makes you like, no, that's not it. And you have to like re-explain, which myth is that? The number one for you.
The one that irks me, the one that really like gets under my skin and like grinds my gears, if you will, is the idea that calories are the most important part of the diet, and that it's all about the calories themselves, and that the sources of where those calories come from don't matter. That's that actually has to be. Can I swear on your podcast?
Go ahead, fucking let it rip.
Okay, because that's got to be the one that like it fucks me up so bad. It's this myth that like, and it's you know, that if it fits your macros, I know you're not a fan of that either. That there's more to it than just fitting the macros, and that the source of your calories don't matter, and that's the myth I have a problem with.
Right, and you're not alone with that. Myself here, you know, as well. I find a big issue with that, but not only because, I mean, theoretically speaking, or in principle, that's, in my opinion and yours, and I mean, I guess based on literature, wrong. IIFYM generally, I mean, if we're gonna just separate, you know, what we know about how things operate with calories and macros, that alone is like a behavioral sort of approach to nutrition and dieting, does not allow for you to create a foundation, a structure that will actually, you know, keep you disciplined in that sense. I mean, let's put it this way. So you get two people, one of them, you know, they're actually valuing like micronutrients, the way that the macros can be optimized in the body, like, you know, carbs specifically. We can talk about fructose. We can talk about just like the way that glucose operates, things of that sort. Like, they're aware, and they eat the foods that are most aligned with the best, we'll say, results when it comes to how optimal it can be, as opposed to
their energy needs, their bodies.
Right. And, you know, for their hormones and everything of that sort, they prioritize that functional, this is the functional attributes of what food can offer, as opposed to just the taste, the smell, right? And because IIFYM, let's be honest with
and
you.
And the total carb number.
Well, exactly, too, right? I mean, even if they were, let's say, they had the same macros, it's like the people that are doing IIFYM, in my opinion, typically struggle not only with nutrition, but with training more because they don't have that mindset of discipline where it's, well, I would rather have my carbs come from pizza, but I do understand the importance of having my carbs from potatoes and rice. The people that understand, having whole foods are better, they're more disciplined. And it's like a pattern that I see not only with like my clients, but with myself. Like I noticed if I ever
it spills over into other areas. You get that ripple effect. Whereas 100%. If you're more disciplined here and you understand the concept that pizza fits my macros, but my body hormonally, metabolically is going to get more, energetically is going to get more if I fill those macros with whole foods. So, and then you start like that snowball effect carries into other aspects of your life. Like you said, like your training, you're going to pick things in the gym that are going to be more challenging, that you're going to get more growth from. And then you're going to be the person who sees more growth and sees more things like that. And then you'll see that spilling into other areas of your life, like your mindset, your business, things like that as well.
Oh, 100%. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So,
right? Preach it. Preach it.
Shout out to Cole and Brian. I'm super ripping that page from your book. But so it's true. And like, so the people that weigh all of the importance, and you can definitely attest to this, I can with my clients as well. I know you and your clients can as well. They'll be like, okay, well, I'm nailing the amount of calories that I'm supposed to be getting. My protein's on, the fats are on, the carbs are on, but I'm doing like this IIFYM thing. And they're noticing that, okay, well, maybe week 1, week 2, week 3, they make amazing progress, right? Like they lose 5, 6, 7 pounds, 10 pounds even, within the first month. The next month comes brick wall. What's going on? Plateau. But Matt, but Coach Shal, what's going on?
I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm hitting my targets.
Right? But they're not focusing, right, on the way that the cholesterol is impacting their body, their digestive system, their ability to metabolize the foods properly. Like, but if you're constantly eating like high starchy carbs, for example, and your body doesn't respond to like having 80-90% of your carbs being starchy, yes, if you abide by a certain caloric requirement limit to lose weight, it'll work for that period of time. But once you hit that brick wall, it's not the amount of food when it comes to the calories and the macros that needs to change. It's the type of protein.
It's the quality.
The quality, right? So it's better said than the type. So the quality of the food is what becomes the common denominator, the variable, the number one variable that you need to switch in order to continue seeing progress. So with that said, and like I can definitely like say for myself, that's helped me realize it's like, yes, I'm a bodybuilder. It's different for me. Like I eat mainly for fuel, but most people eat for pleasure. If you can find a balance between eating for fuel and for pleasure, you're going to find something sustainable enough for you to continue seeing success without like, putting up that guardrail and saying, okay, well, I only eat these whole foods that are great for my system, which you should be eating whole foods that are really good for you. But you can find a balance of like going out with maybe your husband or your wife or your family or something and going to eat something sort of off the rails and letting yourself know that it's off the rails and it's not something that you should constantly incorporate, because then you are likely going to walk into, digestive issues, hormone imbalances. And even if you're hitting the correct... Oh my God. Again, it's a mental thing, right? It's a mental thing, right?
I would rate, I'm a big fan of like, you can't completely deprive yourself of the things that you love. Just because the things that you love, like I freaking love chocolate. I love chocolate. Chocolate is not something that I should be eating and filling my macros with on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, I could fill my macros with chocolate compared to like broccoli, but my body's going to get a lot more out of the broccoli. But that doesn't mean I can never, ever, ever have the chocolate. It just means I'm going to be really smart about when I have it. And when I have it, I'm going to enjoy it as a treat. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it or shitty about it because I'm doing the things that support my body 80% of the time or more. So if I take that, I like the 80-20 rule. If I take that 20% or less of the time that I want to have a little fun and step outside of my boundaries, then I can do that. And I don't even have to feel bad about it. And it's completely successful and sustainable. And I'll admit, like, I'm somebody who came from binge eating and was somebody who tried to, I'm going to do this so good and I'm going to follow this so exact. And then as soon as the sun went down and as soon as everybody was asleep and nobody was there to witness what I was putting in my body, that's when the bad, like, and I hate to say bad things, but like I was doing bad things to my body because I was doing it in excess and I was binging on it. I wasn't just enjoying a treat and then, moving on with my life. I was like really binging on it. So you want to be aware of where your calories come from because they're going to affect you in those ways as well.
No, 100%. And like that's super well said. And I wouldn't say bad as well, when you do the other thing. But at the same time, it's like, what's optimal. And that's just not optimal, right? Your body isn't responding to best.
Foods, and then there's the eat more foods.
Period, right? So, and just to lay it out to you guys and girls listening to the podcast or watching live, that doesn't mean, just to put it in a nutshell, eating whole foods doesn't mean eating whole foods all the time, every single day until you die. You are allowed to eat other foods that fit your macros that aren't necessarily, wholesome and have the macros or the micronutrients and everything that makes, a good quality food a good quality, right? So it's the sustainability, it's the balance. So here's the question that I have for you now, Shal. I know that this is something that you practice religiously within the Badass Black Sheep Academy, where you're the head coach of. I want to know if you could just, if you want to share with us one story of a client that you've had that, was doing IIFYM or preached IIFYM was the way to go. And then you introduced, clean eating, at least the 80-20 rule, and how that affected their progress.
Yeah, I would say that majority of my clients aren't really concerned with macros when they start with me. But there's been a couple, and and it's not so much the macros that was a concern, but her food choices. She understood, okay, my body needs protein, my body needs carbs, my body needs fat. She understood that very, very well, a past client of mine. And she, when we got her in the academy and she started working with us, she was like, wow, there's a lot of foods, because we start everybody with a meal plan. And then we take them, like we teach them how to fuel their body, what types of foods to use. And then we take them into using, like kind of learning it more for themselves and doing macros and stuff like that so that they can be more adventurous with it. But on her first meal plan, she was like, there's a lot of foods on here I wouldn't normally eat. Like there's a lot of vegetables and stuff on here. She's like, she's like, it's not that I'm opposed to eating carbs, but like, she's like, this wasn't what I was expecting. And, like I looked at the macros that you gave me. She was aware of what they were. And she's like, and, I could still hit this with my regular diet, really close to it anyways. And I said, give it a try. And she was like, okay. And I was like, just give it a try. Her name was Jess, and she was a little hesitant about it at first. I was like, just give it a try. And she was like, okay, like some of these vegetables I don't. And I'm like, just give it a try. Put some salt and pepper on. I'm like, just give it a try.
Yeah.
And within the first couple of weeks, she was just like, what did you do to my metabolism and to my guts? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I just feel like everything's moving now. She's like, I don't ever feel like I don't have energy. She's like, I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. She's like, I don't feel full or bloated. And she was feeling bloated a lot of the times, even though she was under eating, just eating the wrong types of foods, but under eating. But it was making her feel really bloated. And like the difference in her gut microbiome and how it affected her guts and how it affected her hormones and how it affected her energy levels within the first 2 weeks. She was like, you fixed. She's like, I didn't even know that my guts needed fixing, and you fixed them in 2 weeks. And then like continuing on and on and on from there, she ended up losing all of the inflammation that she was carrying, all of the belly fat and all the cortisol and the
water
insulin belly that
everything.
All of it just like completely was like, okay, I can let go now. I don't have to be here anymore. I don't have to hold here to try to give you something that you're not getting. Like I could just go.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's wonderful. That's life changing. And I've definitely had an experience like that where, one of my clients, it was about 6 months ago, one of my clients, he came in and he was just, he wouldn't budge. IIFYM, that's the way to go. I just want to eat what I want to eat and get the results that I want to get. And I'm like, okay, cool. Calories in, calories out. Awesome. Like it's going to work until it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, we're going to have to fix something. The thing that we're going to have to fix is not the amount of calories you're eating, but where you're getting these calories from. And when I broke it to him, he still didn't understand. So I'm like, okay, well, here's punishment. I'm going to lower your calories. Have fun with IIFYM. So I lowered his calories. All right. Dude, I'm not a dick or anything, but when you're hard
But you
headed,
needed to learn.
you need to learn. So,
Yeah, some people learn the hard way.
right? So I lowered the calories. I gave him something that he could just get by with, but he was gonna be tired and lethargic, and gave it to him for a week. So the next week comes back, he's like, "Hey man, I lost like like half of a pound, or I think it was a 3/4 of a pound." I'm like, "Cool, we broke the plateau. Want to do this next week?" "Nah, man. The calories are a bit too low, so we can increase them a little bit." I'm like, "Dude, you lost only a 3/4 of a pound. So if I increase it even slightly, you're pretty much going back to plateau." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah. So how about this? We'll try this thing for a week. I listen to you for a week. You listen to me for a week." He goes and he eats the whole foods that I switch, and he loses 3 pounds within the week with more calories than before I even augmented it, right? So then he began to understand, like, okay, well now, Matt, like I get it. Like I was being lazy with like the whole meal prep approach, which is why IFYM just seems so appealing, because all you got to do is open up your Uber Eats and boom, or drive down to the, you know what I mean? So it forced him to play at a higher level with discipline, as we were saying earlier. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And then with that, I also noticed his training started to get better, not only because he was more disciplined, but because of the selections of the macronutrients, of the calories, were genuinely benefiting him and giving him more energy in the gym, and he would notice that, right? So, and even just throughout the day, like,
well, your body clicks into these things too, and it picks up on these cues, and it's like, oh, I understand now. You want, like, it's interesting how when you're eating more whole foods, your mind muscle connection is actually affected by this as well, and that your body actually is like, oh, we're training. You want me to grow. I understand what we're doing here. You're not just like forcing me through some movements because you hate me. I know what we're doing now. And it's like, it's night and day how your body responds differently just by changing that fuel source.
Oh, 100%. And you said it well. It's changing the fuel source that indicates the success here, all right? So, but at the end of the day, these people want to still say a calorie is a calorie, right? So it's yes and no. We already know about that. And we're going to dive in, guys and girls, to 3 sort of common misconceptions, at least within your realm of knowledge, without having to like dive deep into the rabbit hole of YouTube or anything, or if you didn't do any schooling. We're going to try to keep it very surface level so you guys and girls can understand. But
let's say you guys deal with.
Right. Everyday stuff, right? And let's talk about the number one coveted, the most famous carbs, okay? Fructose and glucose specifically. All right. So we understand that these are 2 main simple sugars in our diets. Fructose typically we can get from, whole vegetables, whole fruits, typically things that are very fibrous. And then we got the glucose on the other hand that mainly comes from your starchy carb, right? Mainly, or processed, right? Like you're more likely going to get glucose from that. Okay. So we understand, at least Shal and I, and those people that have done, a little bit of research in the field, understand that these carbs are metabolized differently. Although they're both carbs, and although, technically speaking, if you do get the same amount of them and they do equate to the same amount of calories, you would assume that they have the similar effect, right? But no. And the reason why they don't, Shal, you can take it away. Explain. Drop some heat. Let's go.
Like I'm like biting to. I'm like
I
let
can
me
see.
Let me So you need to know, first of all, that the thing about a calorie is that technically one dietary calorie contains 4,184 units of energy. And in that respect, a calorie is always going to be a calorie. Now, gram for gram, glucose and fructose provide the same amount of calories. They're the exact same gram for gram. But like what Matt was saying, is when your body metabolizes these things, your body metabolizes it very, very differently. They're not used the same in your body. So glucose is going to be metabolized by all of your body's tissues. Glucose can be used by everything. It's one of your body's main energy sources. But fructose, on the other hand, actually only is metabolized in your liver. So that means it's not going to be metabolized by everything in your body. And it's only going to be metabolized in your liver. Now, this matters, but why does it matter? So it matters on a hormonal level because we've got this awesome little hormone called ghrelin. I like to call him gremlin. Ghrelin is our hunger hormone. And when you're hungry, when your stomach is empty, it actually tells this hormone, your hormone will actually increase. The production of this hormone goes up when you're hungry. And then once you put food in your system, the production of this hormone goes down and another hormone actually gets produced to tell it to go down. It's pretty cool. But there's a study that showed that when you're consuming more fructose, it's going to lead to higher ghrelin levels. What that means is that when you're eating more of your carbs that come from that sugary fructose compared to the starchier glucose, when your liver metabolizes it, it knows that your body is eating food, but you're going to get hungrier faster. So it's going to be a faster carb. It's going to digest faster, and it's going to tell your ghrelin levels to produce more. So that means you're going to get hungrier than you're eating something that's got a little bit more glucose in it, or that's more of a glucose-based carb.
Right. And I love the way you worded that. So, and now that you broke it open, I'm going to sort of give you guys and girls a little bit of an extra perspective. So it's sort of like, if you really think about it mentally, when you do the IIFYM, or you're consuming a lot more fructose, and it goes through your liver, and your body doesn't get the chance to really signal the ghrelin to tell your body to stop eating, right? Because the more ghrelin you secrete, the more hungry you get. It's almost like a genetic, or not a genetic, we can say like a cellular response, or cellular mirror of what it is in your head to eat those foods, because you look at them, you smell them, they taste good, they're appealing already. The chocolate you mentioned, so you already want to eat it, and when you start eating it, you never stop. You binge typically when you're in IIFYM. Jesus, I don't even want to say it. My tongue keeps fucking twisting.
You're so adverse to it.
It's like,
you're like, get these.
I've never said it these
out of my mouth.
Right. I never said it these many times in my life. But so your body's like that. It just wants to binge, right? And then like on a cellular level, it's the same thing. Your ghrelin won't secrete, and you're going to continue to binge if you don't have that. Again, we're eating for what's optimal.
And you probably binge on those foods. And then the cycle just goes more and more and more, because you're going to be, because you crave them.
100%. And as you said, consuming a lot of fructose can, create or cause an insulin resistance. If you're pre-diabetic, this is something that you want to like really pay attention to. And if you're not, still you want to pay attention to it, because it's going to affect the way your whole entire body works together. And of course, your level of, we'll say, your ability to get a high quality workout in the gym, or just feel alive throughout the day, because if your insulin levels spike and then crash and spike and crash, or your insulin is just something you don't have control over, you're likely not going to have control over your mood, likely not going to have control over the amount of energy that you have throughout the day, which is going to make it a lot harder to do like very simple things, like basic things, right? If you've ever, if this is something that you've noticed for yourself, if you're listening to the podcast, if you ever felt like, just for no reason, you're extremely lethargic, you're extremely tired, doing simple things.
Afternoon wall.
Oh my God, it's just like a whole day of mourning. You know what I mean? Like you just woke up and it feels like you just woke up the whole entire day. This could be one of the reasons why, right? This could be one of the very main reasons why you struggle with it. Okay. And it's simply down to your food choices. Okay. You could, be hitting the gym. You could be hitting your calories and macros in the way that you want to, but you got to understand that the way that you want to do it, like the way that is the most fun, the way that is the most appealing, or at least seems that way, isn't necessarily the way, because either A, you're going to hit a plateau, or B, you're going to suffer as you go along this fat loss journey. And even worse, you're going to do almost irreparable damage to the way that your body operates when you start to consume foods, right? Because our body recognizes patterns. Okay. And if you continuously, put yourself in this pattern, your body's going to secrete hormones in a pattern, and that's going to have either a positive or negative effect depending on what pattern your body is going, right? So that's juicy information. I love the way that you chop that up, Shal.
Juicy information.
I'm thinking of like a peach right now, peach full of fructose right now, just biting into it, right?
Just like, and not that you can't have it sometimes, but like you need to have that balance, right? Like, maybe if you're about to do a workout, maybe you want some fast acting fructose to get into your body and be like, okay, let's get some fast acting spike of energy here. But that's what you're going to deal with, is that fast spike and that big crash. So it makes sense to, if you're going to have some fructose, not that you can't. I love fructose personally. I am a fruit lover.
Me too.
But then I want to have like some wild rice or something with it that's gonna give my body more sustained energy for longer. And the other thing, when we consume a lot of fructose and we put we're doing too many carbs in that, like carbs are good for us. We need them. Our body needs lots of carbs, especially if you want to build some nice lean muscles. You need a lot of carbs.
Oh, yeah.
So, right? So consuming a lot of fructose on a medical level can actually cause insulin resistance. And when you're dealing with insulin resistance, you're also going to be dealing with abdominal fat gain. You're going to be dealing with blood sugars that are out of control, dense lower lower density cholesterol compared to having the nice higher density cholesterol that you get from most foods that contain glucose. So you kind of want to watch out, like on a medical level, that this is it's not just going to affect your training, and it's not just going to affect your mood, and it's not just going to affect your hunger levels. This can affect you on medical levels as well. So
totally, yeah, it's intracellular, and it can go all the way down to. And if you've ever, I don't know if you guys watch those freaking those you might laugh at me, but I don't really give a damn. Those soaps, you know what I mean, with those like Grey's Anatomy, for example. Okay, and this is just sort of off the topic. If you've ever noticed people having those random diseases, those incurable things that they don't know how they started and things like that, they often come from very, very small things that you do each and every single day that compound into a big negative or positive effect, right? So in this case, it could be like any hormonal disease or imbalance that you have. Maybe it causes, you have like severe acne, let's say, or something like that, or your body retains a ridiculous amount of water and you have no idea why. You know, it's been like that for the last 5 years. You have no idea why.
You don't know why you're pre-diabetic.
Right?
Nobody in your family is diabetic. Why are you pre-diabetic?
See, these random things, these mysteries, it's like, well, is this just like a genetic coding? No. I would argue more on the side that it is your daily choices, and it comes down to a cellular level of what you're consuming and the quality of that, right? So I love the way you worded that, and it just, I don't know, made me flash back into like watching a Grey's Anatomy episode where you couldn't find out the disease, but you know, later on they found out it was usually something small that compounded over and over and over again, which is, you know, that's the way it goes.
Well, and it's so, it's relevant too, and I love that you use that analogy. I do want to stress though, because I don't want you guys to just like stop eating fruit, that fructose only really has negative effects when you're eating it in excessive amounts. So things like sugar and candy and a lot of our liquid beverages that we like so much, all of those liquid carbs are generally fructose carbs. Yeah. So even though fruit has some fructose in it, there's going to be more fructose in certain fruits than there is going to be glucose. There's still going to be fiber and starches and other nutrients that are really, really beneficial. So I'm not saying don't eat fruit, but
don't eat only fruit, okay?
Don't eat only fruit,
right?
And maybe watch the like candies and the sugars and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, no, totally, and just
because that's the excessive stuff.
You're right, and just to put it into simple terms, so you guys really don't get afraid of fruits. Anything in excess can kill you. If you eat enough apple seeds by accident, you will die. So this is not me saying never eat apples. Arsenic, right? Right. So just keep that in your mind. All right. So I also want to bring this down here. I want to talk about this because, yes, we all know about the carbs. And now, at least, I hope you're enlightened, you're aware. Let's dive into metabolic pathways, right? So the ways that either are A, more efficient, or B, less efficient when it comes to your body's ability to use the food's energy. Okay, we do understand that, you know, energy is like electricity, it's like heat, like energy is energy, and our body, once it metabolizes foods, has the ability to optimize it, and you know, it gives off one of the other thing or many other things. I want you to just break it down for us, Shal. The most, so we'll say, thermo efficient foods that you would select if you were deciding to, you know, lose weight today.
So when it comes to like when we're talking about the thermal effect of foods, I want you to think about when your body breaks down these foods, it's going to send them down different pathways. And some of these pathways are, let's say they're really overgrown, so they're slower. Some of these pathways are like superhighways, so they're faster. So when you want to use a more efficient metabolic pathway, the more efficient the pathway is, the more of the food's energy is used for work, and less of it is going to be dissipated as heat or stored for later usage. So the metabolic pathways for protein, this is going to trip you guys out, are less efficient than the metabolic pathways for carbs and fats. You would probably think it's the other way around. The protein metabolic pathways are less efficient than the ones for carbs and fats. Isn't that crazy? Maybe it would be more accurate to say that it's not less efficient, but they're used for different purposes. We need all of them. We need all of our pathways to be full and to have nutrients going down these pathways and feeding these systems. But they're used for different things. So when we're talking about protein contains 4 calories per gram of protein. Now, when you're eating protein and your body is processing these calories, a large amount of these are processed and lost his heat when it's metabolized as your body, because your body has to keep you warm. Otherwise, like we're warm-blooded. Our body has to do stuff to do that. We're not lizards. We can't just hide under hot rocks and be in the sun all the time and be like, oh, that's how I stay warm. So we need food for thermic effect. So if you're not eating enough protein and you wonder why, if you're anemic and you're cold all the time, you probably need to look at your protein intake. And there's a thermic effect for each different macronutrients. And these numbers are going to vary a little bit, but if you go with the thermic effect of protein being at about, let's say, 25%,
okay,
2% for fat, that means that if you have 100 calories of protein, you would end up actually only getting 75 of those calories. But after 100 calories of fat would end up as 98 calories. Mm-hmm. So your body can use more of the calories from the fat and the carbs than it can from the protein.
Mm-hmm. Which is also, sorry to cut you off, which is also why it's so efficient to have, in a way, it's efficient to have a very protein dense diet, because in a way you can satiate yourself without, really bringing in the calories, right? So it's very valuable on that side. But definitely, I bet you guys and girls would have bet every single dollar on this being reversed, and that protein or that fats would have had the higher thermic effect, right? So, but it doesn't, right? And that's something that you guys and girls now know. And thank you so much for sharing that with us, Shal. I also wanted to bring up too, and you mentioned it, anemic, right? So it could be one of the many reasons why, right? Most people are just directly tie being anemic to the lack of iron, because it's like the main symptom for let me just fix my phone's over here.
For anemia,
either the lack of iron usually is the main reason, right?
Usually that's the first thing people blame as the cause. Or they're like, okay, well, let's just put you on iron supplements.
Right.
Like, let's just increase your protein naturally.
And see, and that ties into like the thing that I was talking about when it comes to Grey's Anatomy. It's like, you think that's the problem, you think that's the cause, and it's not. It's the things that you're doing each and every single day. So yes, you may not also be getting an adequate amount of iron in, but one thing that still may be a problem once you do get the adequate amount of iron in is the protein intake. So it just made me think of that even more. So I love the way that you worded that. It really, at least for me, broke open that perspective, and I hope for you guys and girls listening, it shatters some ice in your head too.
Well, I hope your listeners are getting a lot out of it.
They're getting value.
I kind of feel like maybe we should be on an episode of Grey's Anatomy to do something. So if you guys want to hashtag Grey's Anatomy and vote for us to be doctors, like special guest doctors on Grey's Anatomy, I'd be down for that. So
let's go. Let's go. Shout out Dr. Shepard. You know it's good.
Right? Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So again, so those are the two things that we broke down earlier, and I hope that I actually do know, I'm pretty confident that you did get the value and you're able to, dissect what we're talking about. We're not speaking in, space terms in alien language, right? So this should be good enough for you to understand and move forward with and actually apply. Again, all this value is for you to take action on, right? It's actionable value. If you're listening and you don't actually do anything, you can tune out, because it won't do anything for you. You're listening for no reason, right? So
go listen to something else.
Go listen to music, because you're not gonna you're gonna listen to these guys rob a bank, but you're not gonna rob a bank. It's the same thing. So if you're listening to the podcast because you want to do the things in the podcast, or at least get the knowledge and the value from it, please, for your own sake, fuck's sake, so implement it. All right. So we're gonna talk about the satiety index now. Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is something that people are like, "What's the satiety index?"
They're like, forgive me. Okay, so maybe some of these words to you are like alien language, but we're gonna break down what they mean and what sort of effect these terms, or at least these concepts in theory, have on us when we apply them. All right, and that goes for everything else that we talked about today. All right, so we understand that different foods have different effects. All right, it's just sort of like how you can, not even just in relation to volume, but how you can, you could say in relation to volume or even ghrelin production, that could make you feel more or less hungry. When you eat certain foods, sometimes you can feel full, and you can have more calories, but eat a different type of food and feel hungry still, right? So, Shal, break that down for us. What is that feeling? Why does that occur for us? Why is it that I could eat 2 potatoes, okay, and get more calories than if I were to eat, say, and this is just me being silly, like 1,000 grams of lettuce, right? And I would feel more full on the potatoes and the lettuce. Like, what's this
Yeah.
thing? What is this? The
Or like the
satiety
same
index?
thing about like how if you were eating eggs, you wouldn't go back for seconds, you'd be full. But if you were fucking eating ice cream,
Oh my
even
god.
if you were full, you could go back and have a second bowl of ice cream
So
or
what
a
is
second
that?
ice cream cone.
Right? Like, what is that?
Right? So this, remember when we were talking about how the food choices you make have an impact on your hunger levels, and that will have an impact on the total number of calories you end up consuming? This, when we're talking about how full a food makes you feel, this is directly related to that. So the satiety index, or your satiety measurement, is your measurement of the food's ability to reduce hunger, that feeling of hungerness, that feeling of needing to increase more calories, needing to take in more food, or that feeling of fullness, and that you're like, okay, I don't need to eat for, the next few hours. I'm good now. So if we're eating foods that are, not very satiable, they don't make us feel full, then we end up eating more and we still end up being hungrier. And there's some other things that are usually going on when we're doing this. There's usually a little bit of it's a hormonal response, but it's also an anabolic response, and it's a euphoric response, and it's ever so slight, but it's a little bit of a high, and that's what makes you really crave it and addict it and go back for it again and again. Things like, donuts and cakes and ice cream and Nanaimo bars and things like that, they'll actually give you a little bit of this like euphoric feeling.
Right.
So you go back, and even though it's not making you full, so you feel like you could just keep eating it and eating it and eating it. Whereas when you're eating things that are actually making your body feeling full, then it has a major impact on your energy balance, whether or not, like, what you're doing with that food and how many total calories you end up eating. So again, not that calories are bad and that you have to be in this like low, weird 1200, don't fucking eat 1200 calories, you guys. Not that you have to be in some like weird under 1200 calorie zone, but you want to make sure that the calories that you're taking are actually, for the most part, doing things for your body, because if they're not, your body's going to keep looking for ways to make it feel full. And your body is looking, and your system is looking for nutrients, and it knows it's looking for nutrients, but your brain doesn't understand that. Your brain is a pleasure-seeking little slut, and your brain just goes, what do I like? What makes me feel good? So your body's saying, give me more, and your brain's like, I'm trying, I'm giving you more of these things that I like so much, and your body's like, but there's no nutrients here. I'm not full. So your body doesn't just need to have volume of stuff to be full. It actually requires you to give it nutrients, because otherwise it's like you have all these buckets that aren't getting full.
Right. It's like, exactly. It's like having those buckets if you're not going to, get full. It's like, because the nutrients, it's like this. And just to break it down for you guys and girls here, the nutrients in the foods that you're going to be consuming contain what you need in order to secrete the correct hormones to tell you to stop eating. Or they contain the hormones that are going to fluctuate and allow you to just continue eating, right? Yeah. And it's not even funny the way that the processed foods and the foods that let's say are less quality produce more of that result of the latter, of the negative result of not stopping you from eating and never making you feel full and you already crave it, as opposed to the quality foods where, I mean, not even in theory, it's like 99% of the whole foods are gonna make you
feel it.
You feel it.
Well,
Holy shit! I could eat 3 fucking large pizzas, 40 wings, 2 fucking liters of Sprite. Down that.
I've seen you eat. Healthy food. So I've seen you eat whole food, and you ate a lot of it. So yeah. I believe that you can down some pizza, bro.
So I'm talking about pizza. We're eating big, all right? So we're eating right, and I swear to God, I'll be really, really full for maybe an hour and a half. And I'm talking about food volume. That's like 3-4, easily almost 4,000 calories. And I'm talking about like a couple of hours, I hit the washroom, I come back out, and I'm kind of hungry again. Like, I didn't really feel like I ate 3,000 calories, even though my stomach was literally like bulging, right? With all the, the fructose, the carbonated soda, everything, like all that, right? As opposed to when I just have a clean day of eating, right? It's the equivalent amount of calories, but through whole foods. And I mean, you've seen this, you're a witness, you've seen me almost bite the fork.
I've seen Matt eat, you guys.
Right? It's, and believe me, that is a little bit slower than the way I'd eat pizza. The way you saw me eating that fast. Like, like to chew that extra. It has something to do with chewing and your ghrelin response as well. When the food is denser and it's just more rich in nutrients and it's just more quality, you're more likely going to have to chew it more to be able to turn it into a paste, get your enzymes all over it, so that when you do swallow it, your body can metabolize it efficiently. But the chewing sends a signal to your brain, okay, well, he's chewing a lot, and that's going to secrete ghrelin, or at least
the emaciation process. Yeah.
Boom. Right. So it's going to reduce the secretion of ghrelin.
Now we're throwing words at you guys. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. We're speaking alien, but you know what we're talking about. I'm really trying to be as simple as possible. So, and yeah, like that is definitely a thing. And just to connect it to you guys and girls that are still kind of cloudy on where we're coming from, think of this. And I know you've watched it. If you're in North America, you've definitely watched this show, TLC, My 600-Pound Life. Okay.
Yep.
So that show, I remember just watching the show and be like, how do these people not like puke? How do these people not like, why don't they get full? How do you eat and get to 600 pounds? Like, how do you actually do that? Like, okay, we know that they're not actually doing any physical activity, and they could have genetic predispositions like thyroid issues and things of that sort, which can be dealt with if you eat correctly. But the thing is, and it ties so well with this, the satiety index. Right? They are eating foods that don't make them satiated, that are going to pack on the calories, that are not quality, and that are going to put them in the opposite end of health without them even knowing, because they're just enjoying food and they eat when they're hungry. So they feel like they're doing something right because they eat when they're hungry, right? Yeah. But they're not supposed to be hungry is the thing, right? So I love the way you worded that, Shal. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that?
I think we've covered most of it. Like, I think the only thing I wanted to like retouch on and just kind of like make sure that we doubled back on is that we're not saying that you can't have pizza, like or ice cream or tacos. I couldn't live without I couldn't live without tacos. We're not saying that you can't have these things, and I encourage my clients 100%. I believe you do this too. That we actually encourage our clients not to completely deprive themselves of these types of foods, because that's going to lead to binging. That's going to lead to, it's the journey is more than just what I put in my body and how I did the squats. There's mental and there's emotional and there's other things that are going along with it. So we actually want, we want you to enjoy your life. So, but I think if more of us followed that 80-20 rule, then we wouldn't be depriving our hormonal systems at the cellular level that we do when we're strictly eating for convenience, or we're strictly eating for that, if it fits your macros, if we're strictly doing those kind of things, and like your body at the end of the day, it runs off calories.
Energy, we'll say.
Calories, energy. It runs off energy, but you need calories to supply that energy, and where those calories are coming from determines the value to your body and how your body is going to use it.
100%. And just to wrap it up, the way that, okay, you've heard this a billion, jillion times. I know Shal's heard this a trillion times. And maybe even you listening to this heard this 100 times. But think of the vehicles, guys and girls. You're not going to put ultra premium in an 88 freaking Toyota. You're going to put your ultra premium in a Ferrari because you want it to run like a Ferrari, right? So the calories are the gas.
Stop treating yourself like an 88 Toyota.
Let's fucking go. That's what I'm telling you guys, right? It's not that you can't, if you're in a pinch, you're super, super far out, you can't get ultra, so you just get regular premium. Okay, maybe you just need that because you're so far away and you're stranded. Okay, your Ferrari's not going to die, but you better go check it out real quick, as opposed to just trying to save the money and always putting the gas inside, right? So just make sure you're fueling yourself with the correct amount, or the correct type of fuel, I'll say, right? Not just the amount, but the correct type of fuel. It's not that you can't have any of the other things that we've mentioned, but the type of fuel that you need is the type of fuel that you need. You're gonna feel the difference. You'll know what you need based off of what you're consuming. All right. So yeah. I hope that makes sense to you guys and girls. Again, thank you so much, Shal, for giving us your sweet time today to break down with us and talk to us about these myths regarding calories and macros and IIFYM. That's the last time I have to say this, so thank God. I'm grateful.
Yeah, no more of those.
None of those, right? So where do we find you on social media? How do we connect with Shal, Coach Shal's journey and her clients, the badass fucking sheep? Let's go. How do we do that? Where are you at?
So you can find me on Facebook at Shal Friesen. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Coach_Shal. And that's where you can find me for now. Podcast is actually in the works. So I'm excited to bring you. I would love to have you as a guest too. I would love.
I'm coming. I'm going to be there.
Yes,
I'll
perfect.
be there.
And I just wanted to say thank you for all of your listeners and everybody that was listening today. Big shout out to all of Matt's listeners. You guys, like, this man delivers so much value. And I just want to give a shout out to Matt and a thank you again for having me be here. It's an honor to get to be on, like, of all podcasts, Meathead on the mic, because this is absolutely my favorite one to listen to. I'm so excited that you started this. And it's just an honor to be here and to be able to have your listeners have, like, just to be able to give them something and give them value. So I really appreciate your time, everybody, and especially you, Matt, for having me here.
Oh man, you gave me like the perfect outro. Like I didn't even ask for this, and I'm about to cry. So fucking, that's dope. It's nothing but love, Shal. You know what it is. PT Dom life forever. All right, guys and girls, it's time for you to take action. Okay. I hope and pray that this was a valuable experience for you guys and girls today. Thank you so much for your precious time and attention. Also, if you want to join either Coach Shal's program or my program, you can DM either of us. She gave you her social media. Hit her up. You know what she specializes in. I already let you know in the intro. Or if you want to be a meathead and just come with the IFBB Pro, I'm here too. All right. Feel free to DM us at any time. All right. P.S. I will not be monetizing this podcast with ads because I respect your time and I want you to strictly get value from these. All right. Let's embrace your inner meathead together. It's been nice chatting. Hope you like what today's topic was about. IFBB Pro Matt Butale signing out. Boom. Woo. So we rolling still. All right, people. I'm going to just tune in over here. Shal, you got your phone out. Let's look at some comments real quick.
All right. I just have to say goodbye to my man real quick here.
Woo. Yo, tell us, what's good, bro? What's good, man?
Oh, Matt says what's good.
We're chilling, man.
He says what's up.
Dope.
He didn't want to interrupt the broadcast. No, he was just patiently waiting before he goes.
Yeah, no, he's always welcome, man. It's all good energy. So I'm looking through. I'm just scrolling through. Oh, 100%. I was laughing when we were at the dinner at the event, and he came up to me. He's like, "Man, you got that issue with your hair tie too?" I'm like, "Bro, you don't know, man. You know, it's black people hair problems, man. When your shit's too thick, it just gets there. So it'll explode.
The hair tie just goes across the room. He's like, "Oh, I got the best ones for you."
Mago says
he was gonna hook you up.
Oh, he better have like 100 of those on his wristband, just up his sleeve. You know what I'm saying?
He does.
Dope. So Mago says, "Hey Matt, skin glowing today, man. Bear water." No, Shal's ahead of me. She's drinking water. I hope it's water. My water's downstairs, so I gotta go grab that. But that's what's up. Son, Simi, thank you for joining, yo. Simstar, dope. Been waiting for this collab. Dope. Hope you got value from this.
Thanks, guys.
You know. Mago says, "Share this live if you care about your people." We'll be posting this, and you already know I care about you. You're just pulling my leg. Son, what's good? you both.
I saw that come up too, and I was like, "Are we not live?" I was like, "No, we're live."
And I'm like, for him to comment that, I know him personally, so it's like, oh boy, you know, this guy's pulling my leg.
It made me laugh. I was like, it fucked with me, and then I was like, wait, we have to be live. How would he have commented that?
You know what I mean?
This guy,
man, this fucking guy, bro. So he says, then Son says, "You both get me pumped working out as y'all speak. Sick." So we get somebody listening to us as she was lifting. So that's fucking dope. Love that.
That's awesome.
Dimitri, Arsh, thanks for joining. Ashwin, thanks for joining. Abija, what's good? AK, everybody. I could shout all of you guys out, but we don't have the sweet time for that. I'm just going to look for any questions that I can find. If I can find them, I'm going to answer them with Shal. And if not, you know, it's all love, and I appreciate the banter anyway, because we're meatheads. Shout out to y'all. Uncle John says, "I'm supposed to be focused at work, but I would rather watch this." Fuck yeah.
I saw that. Yes.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right, people.
I hope you got mad value, Uncle John.
Let's go. You know what I'm saying? So, and just a little nugget here. Shal will be hosting me on her podcast when it does happen. Right. So, looking forward to that. That's going to be super wicked. But until then, guys and girls, I hope you have the motherfucking sickest weekend of your life. Shal, thank you so much again for your time. Can't wait to do this again on your podcast and mine again. Let's make this tradition.
Sounds good. Let's make it happen. All right. I'm in.
All right.